Last generation, MajorMarshall.com, the Republican candidate for governor.
Have sexual relations
and I realize that this is something he is
We're not going to be able to solve our problems if we get distracted by sideshows and carnival barkers.
One Republican, one Democrat, and you discuss the issues that matter in today's local, state, national, and global politics. Hosted by Steve Hickson with co-hosts John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey. This is Backfire.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to another edition of Backfire with Franklin Chansey and John Stanberry, and of course myself, Steve Doball Hickson. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Hey.
Good morning, John. How you doing today?
I'm fine.
He's smiling this morning. That's a good sign.
What does John not have to smile about?
Well,
he's living the American dream, first of all.
Honestly, what does anybody living in America have to not smile about?
That's exactly right.
We lose perspective. 90 miles off the coast of Florida, people in Haiti are starving to death.
Hey, there's a new law coming into effect July 1st that I have really been wanting to happen since I was in the military back in 1970. Now then,
I have no idea where this is going.
That is something that has taken a long time to change. When I was in the military, I was in Germany. While in Germany, I had two cars, and I was able to drive on the Autobahn, and I think I had a 1957 Volkswagen that would run about 40 miles an hour top end. And I never will forget one time I got on the Autobahn and tried to pass a car, and next thing I know, there was a car coming about 120 up behind me flashing those lights. But they've got the slowpoke law that's going to go in effect in Tennessee on July 1st. That's a great law.
Well, it is. So many people have always seemed to think that the left lane is the fast lane as opposed to the passing lane. And it's an attempt to try and nudge people back into that concept.
Can I
go ahead,
garner a little credit here?
Please.
I'm the constituent that said something to Representative Howell about that.
Oh, really?
And it only applies to 3 lanes. I wish it applied to the 2 lanes. And really, it's a reflection of our me culture. People get in that left lane and they're like, oh, by God, I'm going fast enough. You can just, stay behind me. The problem is they back traffic up, and it's incredibly dangerous. And if there's a wreck, the person who's actually causing it will not be involved and will drive off. So I actually ran into, a couple of weeks ago, we went over to bring my son back from college, ate at some restaurant off the interstate, and there were 4 state troopers in there. And I said something to them about it, and they said they were really glad they were passing this kind of law, that they would be more than happy to go out and try and enforce it some.
Well, some people get out in that, and I call it the passing lane because that's what I've always thought it was. But, I always get back in the right lane after I go around.
You drive in the right lane, you pass in the left lane.
But there's a lot of people that'll just get out in that left lane and drive. And they might run 5 miles an hour less than the speed limit and sit there with both hands in a 10 and 2 position and their heads going forward and not look right or left, but they're going to stay right there at 50 miles an hour instead of 55. And you're right, it backs up traffic. The right lane is
actually, that's one of the excuses.
That's Alabama.
I got to thinking about it, driving this weekend, and I wish and I don't know what the cost of this would be, but I wish they would go out and maybe they put all kinds of stuff in lanes to let you know it's a turn lane.
Right.
They should probably every half a mile or every mile put a sign, painted on the road, passing lane.
Yeah.
To at least remind people, passing lane.
That is a common misunderstanding amongst a lot of people. That they think it's just the faster lane than the right lane.
I've always learned that to get things across, you do it on the front end. When they take their driving test, when they're kids, they really need to be taught this. I'll tell you something. I learned the hard way when I was a young kid. I had a motorcycle. And this is what got my attention. I had a little motorcycle. It was a small one, but I was riding in the left lane on a little highway, and I finally stopped for a red light, and this old grumpy old man just hollered at me, "Get out of the way over there," or something like that. And I thought, boy, but he got my attention, and I always got back in that right lane, and I never got in that left lane unless I was passing. So I started at a young age, but when I went to Europe, I loved the Autobahn. Because that passing lane was only to be, they would really they would write you up in a heartbeat if you were in that lane and not passing another vehicle. But it's going to carry a $50 fine.
And that's Representative Howell's bill. He did a nice job with it.
Well, congratulations. I appreciate that. I'll have to congratulate him when I see him. Anyway, it goes in effect July 1st, so beware, everyone, beware.
And by the way, that's how the legislature should work. I said something to him, I think, late in the fall, and he got over to Nashville, and he put the bill together and proposed the bill and got it passed. That's kind of what citizen legislature is supposed to be.
You know, it sounds to me like people didn't have a problem passing that one. That was something they was probably a majority was for.
I would say a majority would be for that.
Well, now the only funny thing about that is when you say a majority's for it, I think you're right. But the guy that's in the passing lane doesn't think he's doing that.
Oh.
You know, he did. People never think they're the ones causing the problem.
I know it. Oh, I tell you what, it drives me crazy when I'm trying to get around. And I tell you what's really crazy, going to Nashville. When you're going up those hills and stuff, and trucks are trying to pass, and then you got somebody out there.
Well, the worst is the guy that gets beside a truck and parallels.
Yeah,
you can't get by. You can't get by in the right lane.
Right. And they just run the constant speed and carry on. I want to ask a question, and I think I know the answer, but I'm not positive. I read the article in the Banner. Excuse me, I've got something in my throat. And about Eric Watson and this Debbie Miller. Is she not the one that
Debbie?
I mean, not Debbie Miller. I'm sorry. What's her name? Let me find my paperwork. I've got it buried here. But anyway, she's one raising Cain about Sheriff Watson and Debbie Williams.
Right.
Who is she? Doesn't she? I've read about her several times in the past, I think. Did she not fight the airport?
I don't
Maybe
remember.
I'm wrong.
I don't remember that.
If I am, I apologize. But what's going on with conduct unbecoming?
Well, I will have to say I was a little surprised that the Banner ran the headline they ran on that story. The commission allows any citizen to come up and address the commission. However, I will say that I thought that the rule sort of was you weren't allowed to personally attack people and an individual. You could discuss a problem, you could discuss a systemic situation, but I'm a little surprised that the chairman of the commission didn't shut that down, and I'm surprised that the Banner would choose that headline when that's simply her characterization. That's not a actual charge or proved incident or anything, and this is all apparently 2 years old. This is all stuff that happened several years ago and was basically a misunderstanding that I think Miss Williams has sort of taken hold of and run with.
Well, is there any other things that she's been involved with? I mean, does she? I don't know. But
she'd been an officer in the Republican Party. She was vice chairman for a term or so, and I think 2 cycles ago she was not reelected to that position.
Okay. Well, I knew I'd heard her name, and I wasn't sure, but anyway, I wanted to follow through with that and just see.
There's nothing to it when you read the article. There's nothing to it but her complaining about something that was 2 years ago, and that basically there wasn't anything to it 2 years ago, from what I understand.
Well, how did it hit the headlines and become such
I don't know.
a large article?
The thing about that is, when you look at that headline, just the fact that the headline's there has an impact. And then when you get down in the article, it's sort of just a he said, she said type thing. So the headline, I think, was maybe not completely fair.
Mm-hmm.
Franklin, you have an opinion?
I'll let Republicans talk about Republicans on their own.
Well, I will say this. One thing you need to keep in mind, and the banner, I think, ought to think about this. The commission allows people to get up there and talk, but if you give this kind of coverage to unsubstantiated charges, you are inviting that time at the commission to become a real mess. Basically, anybody with any kind of grievance or vendetta could theoretically go up there and pitch a fit and expect the banner to put a front page headline on it.
Well, when it talks about tell Eric Watson and Steve Crump that they can kiss my rear end.
Apparently that's all something from a Facebook posting that she did, and I don't think it should have gotten the coverage that it got. Of course, I'm as partisan as I am, I'm not the kind of person to go up there and make those kind of claims. So I personally think it's inappropriate. That kind of dialogue in the public sphere is inappropriate. And I think the commission probably should have shut that down and not let it go on as long as they did.
I agree.
All right. Anyway, if I was wrong, I apologize, Ms. Williams. I was just thinking that I'd seen several other controversy, but if that's not true,
well, no,
I do apologize.
There's been some things where she's not been happy with a lot of different people at different times.
Okay. What's going on at Cleveland State losing their nursing program?
That was a black eye.
You didn't pass, and apparently 3 years in a row you didn't have enough people pass.
It's got to hit the 85% passage rate. That's
it was 81 or 82 this year.
That's a real wake up call.
But it was 70% last year apparently.
Yeah. I mean, nursing program. I mean, it's been a huge program. At Cleveland State.
Not only that, it's hard to get into.
Let me give you a fundamental answer, and Franklin may disagree, but it's one of the problems with all the government programs and the money. Because what these institutions end up doing is they focus on the money. And so if you apply to the program, they want that government money that comes with your entry to their program. So they have to be careful that they don't say, well, this person's not quite, ready, not quite qualified, but I want the money.
Actually, that program in particular, though, there are more applicants for it than there are spaces available, and traditionally it has driven up the GPAs and so forth of people who actually made it into it. So you are getting better students. That's really the reason why it's more troubling.
If that's correct, Franklin's right. My point is more of a basic point, that you need to look at that and make sure that they're not chasing the government money. Now, if Franklin's correct and your GPAs are actually rather competitive,
I think you would find it's higher than any other program at Cleveland State.
If that's the case, then it's a really bad reflection on the program.
When you read the article, I mean, it really got my attention when I saw it in the headlines. But when you read the article, you go back several years ago, and it used to be a wonderful program. The grade levels stayed up, and then in the last, I don't know.
Well, this is
just
passage on their licensure exam at the end of the program.
And keep in mind, 85 is not, that's a B. That's actually a rather low B.
Yeah.
I'm not troubled by it being 85%. I think that's...
No, my point is, if they were required to get 95 or 98, 85 is not an unreasonable level.
Well, it's the same number that applies to every other similar program.
And it sounds like they were given some opportunity to get things corrected over there. So that's another scary thing. I'm wondering if...
Well, I tell you why it worries me.
More people were getting into the nursing program because of money that was allocated.
Well, that's what we just... I don't know.
For-
Franklin.
I'm talking about their scholars. I know of several groups that give nursing scholarship money
Sure.
to Cleveland State.
For many years, Cleveland had a first-rate legal assistant program out there. Ann McCoyne was the head of it for 25 years, and it was a wonderful asset locally here because we had really trained people, quality people that we could utilize in our offices. The state made a decision because there was a similar program at Chattanooga State, to close that down. Well, now there's a tremendous shortage for those positions.
Well, and
down
this
here. And
this
so-
program is actually part of the same type of deal that Franklin's talking about. I think, as I remember it, we had a dental assistant program as well, and they basically
That's at Chattanooga
allocated
State
these
also,
things
yeah.
out and said, okay, we're going to let Chattanooga State have the dental assisting program. We're going to let Cleveland State have the nursing program. So some of this was allocated by the state.
You know, I know Lee University just went into the nursing business, and theirs is a 4-year program. If I'm not mistaken.
which there's one of those at UTC, a 4-year program.
Uh-huh.
But they have the same issue down there. The number of applicants drive up the GPA requirement to get in. If you look on paper, what's required to get into the nursing program, it might be a 2.5 or something like that. But the reality is the students have about a 3.2, 3.3 getting into it.
Unless you're a white male, and then you have a 3.8 or a 3.9 to get in.
I want to say, I've been dealing with my mother for several years, and I've been dealing with my whole life.
Well, she might actually see that from the flip side.
Anyway, I've had to get her help and some of these type of things, but I learned a lot about the CNA programs, which is a Certified Nursing Assistant program, and they're actually teaching that now, like at Bradley High School. I don't know if Cleveland High School has a program or not, but
well, we've had the nursing home. We've had a program as well, and that's a really good entry level program. And a lot of those men and women end up going on into nursing from that.
Well, that's my question. I'm wondering if a lot of people that are getting into the CNA program possibly are trying to go on for nursing and just maybe not making it, and that could be. I don't know. Of course, they have to accept them to get in, don't they?
Well,
yeah,
certainly not knocking CNAs who do very important work.
That is a hard job.
CNA
but the
is a hard job.
qualifications for getting into those programs are
They're
dramatically
two very different programs.
And I want to say the nursing program is a wonderful program.
Well, let me say, I'm a graduate of Cleveland State. Cleveland State is a wonderful school. When I went through, there were 3 or 4 of us that went to dental school, 3 or 4 that went to medical school, several that went to law school. Cleveland State has a wonderful pedigree and history, but this is a clear warning bell that there's something wrong, at least right now.
Okay. All right. Andy Holt, Representative Andy Holt invites California firearm manufacturers to relocate in Tennessee.
Yep.
Evidently, in California, they're creating a lot of havoc, and I think some laws are going against firearms.
They're getting ready to pass some. It's already an incredibly restricted state. Which, by the way, Dianne Feinstein, the liberal Democrat senator out there, even though she's proposed a lot of the assault weapons ban, is one of the few people in the state of California who actually has a permit to own an assault rifle. So apparently it's okay for her to have an assault rifle, but she wants to deny everyone else their right to it. By the way, the National Rifle Association just finished their annual convention in Louisville, Kentucky, where 80,450 gun owners, hunters, and Second Amendment advocates came, less than 3,000 away from the all-time record. They gathered in a location with open carry, and no one got shot. 80,000 gun owners and gun carriers in an open carry state. Nobody got shot. Not a single incident.
And also, they got behind Trump and backed him, right?
They did.
All right.
By the way, when you get into that, New Jersey just denied. New Jersey is one of the states that's really sort of skirting around the recent Supreme Court rulings on gun rights. They denied Lieutenant Colonel Terry Russell a permit to carry a gun. Now, he is a 27-year U.S. Army soldier. He holds a senior position at the Picatinny Arsenal in Wharton. but neither his expertise nor the fact that he works at a military site that has been under threat of terrorism was enough for them to grant him a concealed carry permit. They said that he didn't
What
show
state
a
is this?
justifiable need.
What state?
New Jersey. Now he works at a military site that has actually been threatened by the terrorists, and he's in charge of it. He's a 27-year veteran. He's qualified yearly on his gun. He's also got top secret, sensitive, compartmented information clearance by the government, and all of that wasn't enough for the New Jersey government to give him a concealed carry permit.
Do you have to do to get one in New Jersey?
Well, apparently, for example, there's a woman named Carol Brown. She had obtained a restraining order and installed a security system at her home, but had waited months to be issued a firearm identification card, and her ex killed her before she got her firearm card because of the same system.
Anyway, Andy Holt invited the manufacturers in California just go ahead and move out and relocate to Tennessee.
Well, we got some from Connecticut. Beretta came down.
Okay.
Connecticut
Where are they
lost
located?
several. They're in Nashville, outside of Nashville.
Okay. Well, that might be a good.
Barrett is already. Barrett's a Tennessee company. That's the leading manufacturer of the Army sniper guns. They're in Tennessee.
Okay.
We've actually gotten several from some of these states.
Well, as we say, manufacturing, get the manufacturing back. Don't try to run them off.
Well, actually, gun and ammunition manufacturing has been one of the strongest growth segments of the economy, and it's one of the few success stories of the Obama administration.
Here's another one that caught my attention. A school system suspends a 5-year-old over a bubble gum machine. Lady's 5-year-old daughter was being suspended for a day for bringing a gun to school, a bubble gun. Yeah, it blows bubbles. I'm sorry, a bubble
Right.
gun. It's clear and blue and yellow, and on the inside, and it's got a frozen princess bottle attached to it. The school district sent a statement which read that the suspension is consistent with their district policy, as well as how the Southeast has handled similar situations where students have brought items such as Nerf guns to school and also received a 1-day suspension.
Well, the worst was the Pop-Tart, the kid who ate his Pop-Tart into apparently something that resembled a gun, and they suspended him.
What in the world is going on with America?
Well, whether it's grown-ups, high school students, junior high students, elementary school students, we have defaulted to the concept of zero tolerance rules, which leave no gray areas for people. And consequently, we've given up just relying on common sense for such things.
Yeah, but Franklin, the vast majority of that is the liberal progressive movement. The conservatives.
Whoever it is, John.
Well, but
it's a
it's you
mistake.
all.
It's a mistake.
Well, then fix it. You're connected to that
I'd
group.
love to, except that your party runs everything.
No,
So
we
you
don't
fix
run
it.
anything. Your
How can we
president, your
fix it?
dictatorial president, is
How
doing a
can
lot
we
of this
run
by
anything?
No,
executive order.
We can't even
You got
get in where they
All right,
vote.
Franklin, here's a
You
good
got
example.
the governor, you got the General Assembly. Fix it.
All right,
It's a
let me
state
give
level,
you an
not a
example.
federal one.
We do fix things like
Fix it.
in North Carolina, and then the president, without any bill, without any authorizing legislation, through executive order, threatens and basically extorts every state in the nation to do what he wanted them
That's only
to do.
because
He
you
wanted
guys
it.
abandoned your
Because-
principles.
No, we didn't abandon.
Yes, you
we
did.
did. North Carolina did what
Yes,
they
they
thought
did.
was right.
No, they did.
And the
John.
president is
They
now
did,
extorting
John.
every state in the nation.
Week after week, month after month, year after year, I hear you
By
talk
the way,
about
just so-
returning power to the people. When the people locally voted on something there, the big
The
Republicans
state.
in the
The
state,
state.
the local people
Actually,
in
if you'll
Charlotte.
listen to me,
said
what
no.
we said was state rights. And now the bigger federal executive branch has now extorted all the states. By the way, folks,
Just
just
keep
so you
saying
know,
states' rights.
just so you know where this leads, in Canada, the new liberal progressive prime minister is getting ready to pass a law that will make it illegal to say anything negative about transgendered people, punishable by up to 2 years in prison. That's where Canada's moved. That's where the LGBT tolerance brigade has taken Canada. 2 years in prison if you say anything against a transgendered person.
Now, who's going to enforce that law?
They passed hate speech laws several years ago, and they have already prosecuted. Now listen to this, folks, real close. They have prosecuted pastors for giving sermons in their church where they said homosexuality was a sin. That's happened in Canada already. And that's the tolerance of the LGBT community.
I don't know what's going on in Canada. I don't know why John's so worried about what's going on in Canada.
It's headed here. Same bunch of LGBT fascists are headed here.
It's got to be the same people that are messing with these bubblegum toys and stuff like this, and Nerf toys. It's got to be the same people.
We're all for tolerance, unless, of course, you disagree with us, and then we will crucify you. That's the progressive movement.
Franklin, you got awful quiet on
By the way,
no, I'm just letting John rant.
There's a first-time lawsuit.
You know, we're always ranting about things that have no impact at all on us. Okay, go rant.
There's a first-time lawsuit that's actually rather interesting. The Planned Parenthood shooting, some of the victims are now suing Planned Parenthood because it was a gun-free zone. They're saying that Planned Parenthood has been under pretty constant threat of violence, and that because of that, if it's going to make it a gun-free zone, they should have either increased security, had fencing, had some kind of way of protecting the people, or they should have had signage telling them this is a dangerous area and you need to be prepared. So this lawsuit has the potential to put a stop to gun-free zones. Because what they're saying in the lawsuit is, if you're going to declare your business a gun-free zone, then you are then required to provide some level of increased security for patrons of your business.
I know one time.
Interesting lawsuit.
I know one time a sprinkler system had a problem, and we were having to get some work done. Well, we had to hire somebody down there for security until the sprinkler system got fixed.
Well, that's the point of this lawsuit. You're going to say it's a gun-free zone. And in this case, what they're saying is Planned Parenthood was specifically a more dangerous location because of the violence that has been threatened against them. So they had a higher obligation to provide safety and security to their patrons. This is a significant lawsuit because it could actually stop the gun-free zones. You know, all these companies that want to say we're a gun-free store, fine. You need armed security to protect your people.
Right.
Now, Target right now is suing a guy who stopped a stabbing. A man was stabbing a woman in a Target. This guy stopped it, and Target is now suing the guy that stopped it.
Why would Target sue?
Well, they said the guy stabbed someone out in the parking lot. This guy followed him into the Target store, at which point he grabbed a patron in the store and began stabbing her. This guy tackled him, took the knife away, saved her life. The victim is thanking this guy. Right. Target said if he hadn't followed him in, nothing would have happened.
Wait a minute. I thought you said that he was stabbing.
He'd already stabbed someone outside. But they're saying had the Good Samaritan not followed him into the store, he wouldn't have stabbed anybody in the store. So it's the Good Samaritan's fault, not the guy who was already stabbing people.
All right. I guess this might be a good place for us to take a break. Everybody seems to be calm right now, and then we'll get into it. We'll get into a little
You're
deeper
listening to Backfire with
subjects
Steve Hickson.
when we come back.
We'll be right back after this.
Whoop FM is your hometown oasis. WOOP LP Cleveland. Whoop Island. Radio 99.
Check into cash. The cash you need today is waiting for you at Check into Cash. It's your money, so come in and get it.
Get a payday advance today for up to $425. At Check into Cash, we make it quick, easy, and confidential.
The cash you need is right here, so stop worrying and stop in to Check into Cash today.
Borrowers often use payday advances over a period of months, which can be expensive. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Did you know that U.S. Money Shops cashes all checks, even the ones most check cashers reject? Tax refund checks, government checks, payroll checks, and many more. And when you cash a check with U.S. Money Shops, we'll give you 10% off your next purchase. At U.S. Money Shops, we have everything you need at a fraction of regular retail. So stop by one of our 11 locations or visit us online at usmoneyshops.com.
Buy or sell or buy today, the better way at U.S. Money Shops.
Some restrictions may apply. See store for details.
If you need a little green, Lending Frog is making deals. He'll lend you cash on any kind of wheels. Borrow just a little, or you can borrow big. Lending Frog is a new financial gig. It's hip to hop into cash. LendingFrog.com is making a splash. Dig it, dig it. Dig it, dig it.
Hello, my name is Andy Figglestaller with Ed Jacobs & Associates. We are an employee benefit and insurance broker in business for the past 20 years. The new healthcare law, also known as Obamacare, has finally arrived. The law is complex and the choices are confusing. You have questions, we have the answers. It is our passion to find cost-effective solutions for every client. The solutions will be different for every person or business. Let our knowledge, experience, and passion go to work for you. Contact us today and let us assist you through this process. Our phone number is 423-473-0202, or you can find us on the web at edjacobs.com.
Train engineers put our heating and cooling products for almost every test imaginable. So while you're sending your kids to school, they're sending 10,000 volts through a compressor. Testing like this is the reason Train is so reliable, and why our engineers prefer their steaks. Well done.
Ready to indulge in Train comfort? Call a Train comfort specialist at Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. High-quality service and installation for more than 30 years.
It's hard to stop a train. Really hard.
Call before May 31st and pay no service fee.
No dealers allowed.
Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933, offering the best with over 70 styles of recliners, sofas, electronic lift chairs, full living room packages. Call Mike now at 961-7239 because Jackson Catnapper now offers sales to the public
Every Saturday. That's right. Every Saturday.
From 8 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Or call Mike at 961-7239. Or go see him
every Saturday
at 1911 King Edward Avenue, just across from the main plant. Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933. 961-7239.
No dealers allowed. Yeah, you looking for something sweet? I know you are. Bring your little sweet self to the Village Bake Shop. Around since 1961, there ain't a baked good in the galaxy the Village Bake Shop can't whip up for you. So when you're ready to treat your mouth to a taste you won't soon forget, get over to the Village Bake Shop in the Village Green Town Center. Or give them a call at 476-5179. You dig?
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson on Woo FM. Call 423-614-5553 to join in on the conversation. Now, back to Backfire.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Let's talk about this Freddie Gray verdict that just came out. The policeman was
second verdict.
The second verdict. That's right. Was found not guilty and
of anything.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And basically, there wasn't anything to even convict him for. So the way it's coming out. What's your opinion of the way that's been handled, Franklin? You're in the law enforcement business.
First of all, I'm proud of the judicial system. It seems to be working the way it's supposed to. The defendant in this case made an unusual decision. He waived a jury in this case and allowed a judge to decide the case. By the way, he decided to allow an African-American judge to decide the case.
Right.
They presented the case, and the judge ruled in his behalf unanimously on all the counts, said he wasn't guilty. And I think that's a testament to the way the system's supposed to work. Not that people are supposed to be let go, but that it's a belief in the fairness and impartiality of the tribunal, of the court.
But now,
and
Franklin,
it worked.
do you think racially the prosecutor acted racially when she was trying to stop a riot. You know, in other words, she was doing something to try to stop any more riots and all this type of stuff. Do you think that she was pressured into it?
I
don't
know the answer to that question. It's not inconceivable. Prosecutors are generally elected officials, so I wouldn't say that.
And
that's
she was incredibly inexperienced.
I wouldn't say that that's impossible, but I will say that.
But frankly,
it seems to have been taken very seriously. There hasn't been a lot of over the last several months, a lot of public grandstanding or anything by the.
Because she got her head handed to her in the first.
No, the first one was a hung jury. It was not a not guilty.
Well, but Franklin, I don't disagree that this is a testament to how the system works, but that has nothing to do with whether this police officer and the other police officers have been victimized by that same system.
Well, first
because
of all,
they are a victim.
Let's keep in mind here that there's a very high burden of proof in a criminal case on purpose. It's got to be guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, not more likely than not.
Well, it's not guilty until proven innocent, though.
No, but the point is, if there's not sufficient evidence, you're victimizing someone to put them through this. If there wasn't evidence,
I don't know what all the evidence
is. That's guilty until proven innocent to me.
I don't know about that's true for every criminal case, though.
I mean,
you've got that concept going on.
What is the
tension.
quote that you can indict a ham sandwich with the right votes from
a good prosecutor can indict a ham sandwich?
But that's my point. Franklin's right. The system has worked, and it is a testament that the system works well. But that is a completely different issue from whether they should have been charged in the first place.
Let me say this: after that verdict yesterday that came out, there weren't riots.
Not yet.
Of it.
You're right.
Okay? So.
Well, no, wait a minute. I'm going back.
And the family of Freddie Gray said, we're not criticizing the judge for the outcome. We wanted justice. We think the judge did his or her best with that situation. So they actually issued a positive comment.
But they actually don't think that this officer was the premier case.
And it may not be. I mean, the facts are that nobody's come up, at least publicly, with a convincing explanation for how he died. Right.
There's four more officers to go on trial.
Right.
Although the first trial, wasn't the first trial, Franklin, the one they considered one of their best shots?
Actually, I think, and obviously I'm not looking at this case that closely, but I think the theory in that case was, if we get a conviction in this one, he has to testify against the other ones.
And they lost.
Well, they got a hung jury on it. But that was, once he had either been found not guilty or found guilty, he would lose his right against self-incrimination, would have to testify.
Now he does.
Because there's no jeopardy. And so they still can't compel him to testify.
But, this guy, he went through the trial and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine how he was feeling through
Well,
this?
he probably has to move. I mean, his life is probably destroyed.
And it was basically over nothing.
Well, it's the same thing as the Ferguson case. That officer was completely exonerated, and yet his life is destroyed. And his life.
How do you arrest 6 officers?
Well, those are the 6 officers who were in the chain of custody that Freddie Gray was in. Okay.
Well, don't you think there should have been an investigation into what?
Well, the biggest problem were the officers that simply arrested him in the street and turned him over, because they were actually doing what Mosby, the prosecutor, had ordered them to do, even though she denied it at first until the actual proof of her email proof of what she ordered them to do came out.
And if I recall correctly, keep in mind, everybody talks about the racial element of this. I think two or three of the defendants in the case are African American. 2 or 3 are white. So a African American judge found one of them not guilty yesterday. So it seems to me that there are a lot of elements in that community who are trying very hard to uphold their job and do things. But
you do admit that all these officers' lives are probably destroyed, in Baltimore at least.
Possibly.
So that's a hell of a price to pay to be innocent.
Possibly. Yeah. Well, that's a good reminder always how the criminal justice system works. we like to talk about being tough on crime, but we also need to understand that we set up a system where it's hard to convict people at trials on purpose.
Well,
to
keep in
avoid
mind,
innocent people.
There's also a misconception with a prosecutor. The prosecutor's job is not to prosecute people. The prosecutor's job is to seek justice.
That's how it should be.
If they're innocent, they're supposed to find, that they're innocent. If they're guilty, they're supposed to find that they're guilty. That's one of the arguments with the Mosby woman, is that she made a political decision rather than a judicial justice system.
I guess that's where I'm trying to go. I mean, everything she was done was motivated.
Well, her husband was running for mayor, and so all of this helped his campaign, although it ended up not actually going anywhere. But there were multiple problems with this case. And that may be the biggest element of justice of all, is that she's getting hammered from both sides. The people that wanted the officers prosecuted are mad at her for failing to get a conviction. The people who think it was a political decision in the first place are being vindicated by saying, look, you couldn't get a conviction because you shouldn't have brought these charges originally.
I think it's just almost crazy that all these people were arrested over this. I mean, I think there should have been an investigation, and if you arrest one or two, but to arrest 6 of them with no more facts than they had, that was politically motivated, I think. Anyway, Obama's trying to close Gitmo again. What's going on?
He's been trying for 7 years.
Is it going to happen?
Well, I don't know if he has time between having his photo made in front of communist memorials. He might get it done.
Big news out of Cuba yesterday.
What happened?
The Cuban government announced that they were legalizing small and medium-sized private businesses for the first time in 50-something years.
And it'll all go to Communist Party leaders, like it always has.
Private businesses.
By the way, Franklin, Canada and other countries have been doing business with Cuba for, 30 years now, and it's not made any difference for the political prisoners in Cuba.
It made a difference yesterday. It made a difference
No, it
yesterday.
doesn't. It'll all go to the government coffers. It'll go to the government lackeys. Doesn't go to the real people.
Private businesses, John.
I understand that,
only.
but the only people who have been allowed to have those private businesses are the lackeys of the communist
the entire
government.
country is allowed to do
No,
that.
it's not. Frankly, it's a totalitarian regime.
Oh, John.
Well, we're going to have.
You can call it whatever you want, but it will only be the people that the Communist Party authorizes to have a private business. That's the way it works in a communist totalitarian regime.
Hey, why won't Hillary debate Bernie over in California?
I can't see any reason for her to do that.
Well, I can give you a reason, because this is a quote from her. Honestly, I just believe this is the most important job in the world. It's the toughest job in the world. You should be willing to campaign for every vote. You should be willing to debate anytime, anywhere. That's a direct quote from Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
Was she wrong when she said that?
No.
Or is she just dishonest now?
No, but the facts are she has essentially won the race, and that's not going to change. So there's only risk associated with going on Fox News and having them do a debate.
Except that it's disrespectful to the people in California who haven't voted.
Do you know what I've heard the real problem was, Franklin?
What's that?
They wouldn't give her the questions first.
Yeah.
Well, they've got
that hard because she's done very well in debate.
They've got a
That's because she demands the questions
they've got
before
a new
she goes.
poll out, and Sanders supporters only 17% of Sanders supporters plan on voting for Donald Trump instead of her, and 15% of Obama voters plan on voting for Donald Trump.
Recount in Kentucky between Bernie and Hillary. Is that going to happen?
I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
By the way, Bernie is now raising money for Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Democratic opponent in her primary. So now this split in the Democrat Party is starting to have down-ballot consequences. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is the Democratic National Committee chairwoman.
Right.
And she now has a primary opponent that Bernie Sanders is raising money for.
Who is the opponent?
Hang on, I'll tell you. Tim Canova. He's raised $250,000 since he received the endorsement from Bernie Sanders.
What's going on with this Virginia governor?
He's a crook and a Clinton crony who has now apparently been under federal investigation for receiving money, just like the Clintons
He's
did,
under the same
from a Chinese
investigation that the
national.
previous governor of Virginia was investigated for. And if he violated it, he should be prosecuted too.
Now, this is the guy that just authorized convicted felons to vote, most of whom will vote Democrat.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's traveled with the Clintons and helped raise money in the foundation.
He
and
was
also
chairman of the
getting money-
Democratic National Committee.
and also getting money from the same people that gave money to Clinton's foundation. One of them, a Chinese.
Yes, his name is.
I've got to ask,
$120,000 from Wang Weilang, a Chinese businessman who actually, get this, he's a delegate to the Chinese parliament, and he's pledged $2 million to the Clinton Foundation. Guess what he does for a living, what his businesses do?
What?
Well, he has one business that operates exclusively in the state of Virginia. That's the money to Terry McAuliffe. But he also builds embassies. And that's the money to the Clinton Foundation. What was she? She was the State Department who authorizes embassy builds.
Franklin, does it smell a little dirty?
I'll default to Kenneth Starr, who this week praised the work that the Clinton Foundation had done.
Well, you want to know, Franklin?
10% is all they
10% is all they gave to charity.
10%.
Of all the money they raised, only 10% went to charitable givings.
Okay.
Franklin, that's a report actually from some sort of left of center evaluation organizations. 10% of their millions, hundreds of millions, went to actual charity. And they're receiving money from members of the Chinese Communist Parliament? And that doesn't concern you?
If that's an accurate statement, John, although it's not at all clear that it is.
CBS News reported that in 2013, Wang's Rilin Enterprises pledged $2 million to the Clinton Foundation.
First of all, what you need to understand is that there's the way the Clinton Foundation operates is it conducts most of its activities itself. So when you say they gave 6% of it or 10% to charity, that's a direct cash donation to somebody. The work that the foundation actually does, whether it's education, disease prevention, and so forth, they're actually on the ground doing it.
But
so
aren't
that's
they
a
also
misleading statement.
Well, you mean like the companies they give money to, like the blonde bombshell woman who's a personal friend of Bill's that he gave $2 million to? Those kind of things?
I don't know the answer to that one.
Let me ask, how can a person with a green card make political contributions?
Well, that's the point. They said they're going to have to find out whether he even has a green card.
But even if he does have a green card,
it's illegal. But they've done this before. They found that Chinese nationals gave to the Clintons before in the 90s.
I thought I heard them say that it was not illegal if he had a green card.
They don't know whether he has a green card or not.
Well, if he has one, is it okay for him to give
Apparently,
to a political campaign?
in some ways, it's okay. I don't know.
I don't see how that's correct. Why would we let anyone from another country,
especially a communist nation,
yes, especially a communist nation, with a green card, make donations to a political campaign, Republican or Democrat? Why would we allow
Are we talking
that?
about donations to a campaign, or are we talking about donations to the foundation?
To a campaign.
To a campaign.
Well, I think that there are some rules against that.
Well, that's what I heard. I think I heard
and
that it was not.
If, Franklin, you use the foundation to fly around the country while you're campaigning, like the former president does, then there's an actual connection there. If you're giving money to the foundation and that money is then flying Chelsea and Bill around the country to make speeches for Hillary's campaign, in and of itself, that's effectively a donation.
Don't forget their salaries.
By the way, Terry McAuliffe was actually asking for exclusive dinners and meetings with him in exchange for donations to his political action committee. That's 3 months after he took office. Now, keep in mind, Virginia is term limited. He can't run for re-election. And yet he's selling access. And by the way, this is the guy who came up with the idea of selling nighttime stays in the Lincoln bedroom for money. That was his idea.
I heard he's really good at raising money.
He's excellent at raising money. He has a real connection to Chinese nationals.
But I can't get over this green card. I want to find out more about the green card. You know, I heard him talking on the news that if he did, that they said back in 1997 or something, he was allotted a green card. Well, if he was, he can give to political campaigns. Why would we have anyone from a foreign country, I don't care what kind of card they got, be able to donate to?
Well, the idea with the green card, though, is that they're a legally documented, allowable worker in America. That's their concept.
But they're not American.
They're not American citizens.
Okay. Maybe that's something we ought to look at. I just don't think that that would be a great way to funnel money in from a foreign country.
By the way, do you want to talk about the VA secretary's comments?
Yeah, let's do. Yeah,
Franklin, do you want to defend that one?
No, I don't want to defend the comments.
Really...
I will point out something though, that in spite of the criticism that was given, from what I've read, almost all the Republican leadership is in favor of him staying on because they like overall the job that he's trying to do. Were those comments well considered? No, of course not.
Well, actually, a lot of people have called for his resignation, including Democrats.
Yeah, well, Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell and all those folks, the chairman of the committees and so forth, are not calling on him to resign.
I just really think the comment he made, I mean, I don't have anything against this guy, but just to think the way he expressed the comment.
I agree with you.
He really is not in touch with what the real problem is.
But wait a minute, it gets worse than that. He was wrong on top of that. Disney does keep up with how long you wait in line.
Well,
when you go to Disney, they actually have a phone app you can download that allows you to see the wait times in line so you can plan which ride to stand in line for. So not only was it an asinine comment in and of itself, but it wasn't even correct.
Okay. Again, I'm just going to say that I think it was a stupid comment.
Democrat Congresswoman Tammy Duckworth, who's a veteran who lost both of her legs, called McDonald's comments tone deaf. California Democrat Loretta Sanchez expressed similar comments, and Paul Ryan said, look, you can't compare this to a carnival ride. People died waiting in line. And by the way, Franklin,
John, which part of agreeing with you are you not hearing?
I'm gonna
you know, this is.
I'm gonna
it's
follow
like
up on what you said.
A concrete wall.
He has not made any improvements.
Did you disagree with what I said a moment ago?
No, but let me explain the nuance of what you said, which you may not understand.
It's not a nuance.
Let me explain this.
There's no nuance in it.
He made a report that stated that
I agree that you agreed.
The situation.
I agree that you agreed.
Hang on a minute. The Government Accountability Office review said that wait times have actually gone up. He testified on Monday that 97% of the VA appointments are completed within 30 days. All right, so those two reports are at odds with each other. So you have to look at how can the Accountability Office say they've actually gotten worse, and he can say it's 30 days. Well, because he changed the metric for deciding how long you wait. He is now saying that your wait time is based on when they return your phone call, not when you first made the phone call.
I want to make a comment, and I'm going to say this, and you heard me say it a long time ago. Why do we even have a VA system, hospital system?
You and I had common ground.
I'm telling you. We've got Erlanger Hospital. We've got all these hospitals around us. Why can't we just give them a VA card and let them go to any hospital they want?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because Congress authorized that, and this guy has failed to implement it. It is so complicated and so burdensome. Doctors don't know how it works. The insurance companies don't know how it works, and the veterans don't. So that's another failure on his tenure.
What now?
Congress and the VA came with the fix. It was called Veterans Choice, a $10 billion program that was supposed to give veterans a card that would let them see a non-VA doctor.
Can I tell you what's wrong with that program? I'm going to tell you what I think's wrong with it. They've got it limited by the miles that you have to
40
travel.
miles.
40 miles. There shouldn't be any miles.
Well, it also said,
they ought to just get rid of Veterans Hospital.
You may be right, but the point here is he couldn't even implement that. Nobody's using it, even though he was tasked with establishing it, because he's made it too complicated. Oh, and by the way, Palo Alto, California VA healthcare system has spent $6.3 million on art and consulting services. Now, these projects include an art installation on the side of a parking garage that displays quotes by Abraham Lincoln and Eleanor Roosevelt in, wait for it, folks, Morse code that cost $285,000 because it lights up and blinks quotes by Abraham Lincoln in Morse code. $6.3 million
We
on
know
art.
that it's mismanaged. We understand that.
Well, that's why you do have people beginning to call Republicans and Democrats for this guy's resignation.
Well, okay. I'll again just point out the leadership of the Republican Party has not called for his resignation because they actually like the guy.
Well, he's better than the previous one.
They like the guy.
That doesn't mean the veterans are getting
What
served.
about the guy heading up the IRS?
That's interesting because the Republicans are all divided on that one.
Well, first off,
I'm not divided a bit.
He didn't come
I
and
think he needs to
testify
go.
because he said he had a scheduling
They're divided
conflict.
on that.
Now, he didn't have any scheduling conflict in appearing in the nightly newses, but he couldn't figure out how to come testify. And by the way, Cleta Mitchell, she's the attorney that's representing the groups that were targeted. She was on C-SPAN, and an IRS worker called in and said, I am a lowly clerk at the IRS looking at your application for tax-free status. I go to your webpage and I see the goals of your group, and one of the goals of your group is to abolish the IRS. You can bet every dollar you got I'm going to go after you and target you and try to end your group, and that's just the way it is. That's an actual IRS employee, current employee. So you think this Koskinen guy has made a difference in the culture?
I tell you what, when I watched him testify, I've never seen a guy so arrogant. He should have been fired. He would have been fired on the spot if he'd been in any
Well, this
kind
whole
of
administration, you've got a federal judge in the executive amnesty case that has now said that the Department of Justice attorneys were dishonest and lied to his court.
Will you send me the link for obscurecrap.com?
Well, let me read you his
Wait a minute.
Instead of any of the big stuff that goes on in the world.
U.S. District Judge Andrew Heyman, look it up.
Since we're going to talk about obscure stuff, why haven't we talked about the Clintons murdering Vince Foster and Ted Cruz's
let me
dad
ask you a
murdering
question.
Kennedy?
You think
Donald Trump did this week.
Department of
I think it
Justice
was great.
officials actually lying to a federal judge is an obscure, minuscule
I think
story?
the federal judge is perfectly capable of handling that if, in fact, he thinks
He did.
that happened.
He ruled and said they lied. They purposely lied to his court. But here's the really
He's
bad...
perfectly capable of
you're
handling
right.
that.
You know what he did? Now,
What did he do
I'm
to
glad he at least recognized that they lied, but here's what he did. He ordered any Department of Justice official who's going to testify to have a minimum of 3 hours of ethics training per year. That was their punishment for purposefully, and he puts in his order that they purposely knew the answers to the question and gave misleading and incorrect answers. And his punishment was you need to have 3 hours a year of ethics training.
Well, that's bureaucracy.
They should have been prosecuted for perjury.
That's bureaucracy at
The
its
federal
best.
judge could have ordered that.
He should have.
Let's talk about a couple of things real quick. Just coming up, the plane crash that happened. Trump immediately came out and said most likely it was terrorism.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's catching criticism for coming out that quick and saying things like this.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right or wrong?
Well, he can say whatever he wants to, but in general, we ought to get facts. There's a lot of weird.
Likely.
Well, the president didn't need facts in Ferguson. He didn't need facts in most of these cases that he commented on, and they don't really have any implication outside of stirring up race relations like he did. This particular case, I am perfectly all right with him saying that. The most likely thought is that it is terrorism, and the problem is we have a government that won't call it by its name.
And also Hillary coming out with her negative ad. I love this one that Trump, he was going to take advantage of those poor people that lost those homes, and that would be good. He'd buy those homes.
Oh, by the way,
Trump
by
came right back.
the way, Donald Trump, for one of his golf courses in Scotland this week, filed for government approval to build a seawall that was needed because of global warming.
Well, you know what?
Which he says doesn't happen.
Wait a minute, Franklin. Who said it was caused by global warming?
The application his
I
company
understand.
filed. That's who said
All
it.
right, but who said that, you know, he
just filed the application.
He filed the
Frank.
application.
It's got a
money was
clause
there.
why it's needed on it, and it says to deal
Because
with
when you're
rising
dealing
sea
with a
levels
government
from global warming.
when you're dealing with a
Oh,
government that
so-
believes there's
so he
global
can
warming,
so he
you have
can
to play
lie.
that game.
So you're saying he can lie?
No,
It's
I don't
okay.
like it.
He's not lying. He's applying for
I'm
something.
just holding him accountable for what he says, which you guys are constantly
Hold on,
worried about.
hold on. I've got to end this show. We're running into overtime here. But anyway, the possible conflict of the Clinton Foundation. The Clintons have been targeted by accusations of wrongdoing from Whitewater to Benghazi. There are also self-inflicted wounds. Bill Clinton's alliance with Monica Lewinsky and Hillary Clinton's use of private email servers while Secretary of State. They may be on the verge of creating another Clinton, one with the Clinton Foundation, which has done a number of good works over the past 15 years, would appear to be present in inherent conflict of interest should Miss Clinton become president, and possibly does even now with her as a candidate. Now then, this article keeps going and it talks about all the problems that the Clintons had, but then it's a CNN type article. At the end of it, it says, "I love this." John, you're going to President Obama. His critics now, notwithstanding, has run a remarkably scandal-free administration with few ethical lapses. Hillary Clinton or the next president would stand to gain from emulating such a record.
Well, that shows you how biased the news media
Can
is.
you even
This
believe
is
that comment?
the most unethical, untransparent administration in the history of our country.
There's bukus of Republican writers who've actually written about the fact that there have been far few scandals in this administration than in the last.
People
seven.
died in this administration.
We can't
because
get
of
any
their
answers in
scandals.
this administration.
Fast and Furious. You've got obstruction of justice by the Justice Department. I just read you where a federal judge said Justice Department officials purposely lied to a federal judge.
Anyway, there was a whole lot more we could talk about today.
By the
but we
way,
just
they've
don't have
uncovered
time.
voter fraud in Los Angeles County. 250 plus people have voted illegally who are dead. One lady has voted. She died 26 years ago, and she's voted ever since she died. But according to Franklin, the Democrats, there's no such thing as voter fraud.
I got to ask you a quick question. Have you been out of country any time in the last 2 years?
Yes.
Did you have to have a passport?
Yes.
All right. How come the Mexicans don't have to have something? Why do we get checked, but they don't? When the Mexicans come across the border, do they present any kind of ID?
Yes.
Okay, they do. What is it?
I don't know what
When
the
they
current
illegally
status.
cross the border.
I don't know what the current rule is. I know that the rule has been changed. We didn't used to have a passport to go into Mexico until about 2 years ago. That's a new rule that's
Okay.
passed. And that's
We have
all
to have
part
one.
of changes.
We
going
have to
on.
have one. Why don't they have to have one?
What does Mexico do if they catch you illegally entering the country? They
In some
put you in
cases, they
prison.
arrest you.
They put you in prison.
Mhm.
It's punishable by prison.
What do we do?
We give you health benefits and food stamps. and-
Actually, we put you in prison.
no, we don't.
Oh,
No, we
golly.
don't.
No, if we catch you coming across the border illegally, you are put into custody.
Actually, your president relocated hundreds
those
of.
are people who are already in the country.
No,
John.
they caught them at the border and moved them to states
Quick
and didn't
question.
even notify the governors.
Quick question. We got to go, but the Vietnam and China issue. What's going on there? China's threatening us over the Vietnam thing that Obama just brought up. Right or wrong?
Look,
Right or
Russian
wrong?
jets were in Eastern Europe and they came across where they shouldn't be. The RAF, the British Air Force, sent 4 jets up, met them, confronted them, and turned them away. We let them buzz our ships 100 feet off the deck. That's the difference. We have no respect in the world anymore after 8 years of this presidency.
Well, are we going to? Is it right or wrong to open up the sanctions?
It's wrong. Democrats are even criticizing it. It gives away any leverage we have to help the
Are you
human
talking about
rights
the Vietnam
abuses in Vietnam. We have no
John
leverage
McCain
whatsoever.
praised it.
Do I?
John McCain
Well,
praised
I didn't like a lot of things John McCain praised.
All right. Well, China's threatening us now over this. Well, you better watch out.
Well, that's because
They don't respect
in
us.
Vietnam don't get along very
Right.
well.
Well, maybe.
And they don't respect us.
There's also an enormous regional conflict going on over a portion of the South China Sea there between various nations there, and we've taken positions that are opposed to China. That's what's going on now.
But they don't respect us, so it doesn't matter.
And they're saying our ships are in their territory.
Well, they're going to build their own islands out there.
Well, that's part of what we're talking about. Mm-hmm.
All right. We'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson, John Stan.